Halloween. One of John Carpenter's first films came out in 1978. It would go on to establish a career for a young Jamie Lee Curtis and create one of the most recognizable horror film villains of all time. Since then, from the late 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now 2010s, several sequels were made, and the series has taken bizarre, strange, and just downright dumbfounding turns in direction throughout the past 40 plus years, particularly with the main killer himself, Michael Myers. From originally being related to the final girl, Laurie Strode, in Halloween 2, to having an evil cult control him with a Nordic rune which forces him to violently kill his family members. Yes, that was a real thing. Yes, it was incredibly stupid, and thankfully it's no longer canon. Unlike other horror film legends, those ranging from the sympathetic to the downright diabolical, we know so very little about Michael Myers. At age 8, seemingly without reason, Michael Myers murdered his older sister on Halloween night, ending with his incarceration at Smith's Grove Psychiatric Hospital. After years of being locked up, his personal doctor Samuel Lewis concludes that the boy he's trying to understand, to reason, to get some sort of logical perspective on why he did the things he did, is just simply and purely evil incarnate.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
His most terrifying fears coming true with the events of Halloween 1978, with Michael Myers escaping custody, murdering several teenagers, and actively stalking Laurie Strode. This is as simple as it gets. Michael Myers is undying, uncaring, and simply unstoppable, and truly and purely evil. Halloween Ends takes this concept and takes it in such an extreme, insane, and ridiculous direction, it had me asking, what were they actually thinking? Halloween Ends may very well be the worst Halloween film so far, and I cannot believe we live in a day and age where that is a thing. I think it is worse than The Curse of Michael Myers. I think it might be worse than Halloween Resurrection, the one with Busta Rhymes in it.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Okay, so before I continue, this is going to be an entirely spoiler review. The only way to explain why this movie doesn't work is to explain the actual plot of the film and what exactly is going on. So, spoilers for anyone who gives a shit about how this whole thing ends, and it does not end well, I can tell you that much. Halloween Ends takes place 4 years later after the events of Halloween Kills. Michael Myers had successfully murdered, I think, almost the entirety of the town, and he somehow disappeared within the last 4 years. Laurie Strode, at this time, has decided to basically move on with her life, to be just a good and caring mothering figure to her now parentless granddaughter. So, let's just think about this for a second. Laurie Strode, who over the last 2 other films had been obsessed with Michael Myers, so much so that she spent the last 40 plus years preparing for his eventual return, getting guns, making her house a fortress, getting her daughter ready in case he were to come back, just suddenly decide to say, nah, it's alright, I want to be a normal person now. Even though, 1, Michael Myers is still alive, 2, was never caught, and 3, his last victim before disappearing was Laurie Strode's own daughter. Just straight up murdered her, and she's totally okay with that. Yeah, good, perfect, got it. So what exactly is the plot of this film? Is Michael Myers actually going to make some sort of big grand entrance and take revenge on Laurie Strode? Is Laurie actually pretending to be this nice and caring, totally forgiving person, when in reality she's actually plotting her revenge against Michael Myers? How exactly is this going to end? What exactly is the grand final for this film? What exactly is the fate set for Laurie Strode and Michael Myers? Well, what if I were to tell you this? What if I were to say that Michael Myers, the main villain, the all-out evil of this franchise, the embodiment of Halloween, is not present in this movie? What if I told you that Michael Myers was not our killer? Ladies and gentlemen, meet Corey. Corey is the new Michael Myers. Corey is the one killing people in this film. Corey is the worst thing to happen in this. And I swear to God, I am not making this up. The entire plot revolves around him and his story. How do I put this?
No! No!
The plot of this film is that on Halloween night some time ago, Corey, while babysitting a kid, accidentally killed him. Since then, the town has assumed that Corey killed the child on purpose, and Corey has been massively bullied by them. He's getting bullied by band geeks, by the way. I just want to point that out. He's like 20, 30 years old. So, Corey ends up encountering Michael Myers in the sewer, like freaking Pennywise. So upon discovering him, Michael Myers decides to not murder. In fact, some sort of weird transitional thing happens where Corey starts to turn into Michael Myers. And because of that, he slowly accepts what the town thinks of him. He embraces being a killer, or at least being called a killer, and starts to perpetrate murders within the town, essentially continuing on Michael Myers' legacy. So, we have a few problems with that. One, Michael Myers is still alive, badly beaten, super hurt, and barely hanging on, but alive. Two, this character of Corey was introduced in this film. He wasn't shown in Halloween 2018. He wasn't established in Halloween Kills. This whole thing just comes out of nowhere. Primary issue that we have here is that this film is more concerned about telling what its theme is than actually settling the final with Laurie and Michael. Throughout the last two films, they have built up this idea of Michael Myers being evil incarnate, that his evil is so horrible that it spreads throughout the town. In Halloween Kills, it was demonstrated when the town decided to attack one of the patients that escaped Snipes Grove, thinking that he was Michael Myers, only for it to lead to the patient's suicide. In this, 4 years after Halloween Kills, things happen on Halloween that people normally wouldn't do. Suicide rates go up, murders go up. In this, it is established that Michael's evil is slowly transferring to Corey, and because of that, he himself is becoming Michael and is now capable of committing these horrible acts of murder. The problem is that it just doesn't work well. If Corey was maybe established as a primary character within the last two films, and this idea of him slowly and eventually becoming the new replacement for Michael Myers later on, would be understandable. But he wasn't established in those last two movies. He was established here, in this movie, which is supposed to be the final between Laurie and Michael. And you cannot have him do that. You cannot have him be the killer and take over from Michael's place if Michael Myers is still alive. And you cannot have him do that, especially if we do not have a conclusion for the events of Laurie and Michael. So when the murders happen, you don't care, because instead of getting this murderer that we're expecting, we're getting this little edgelord who we don't know, don't care about, suddenly going on a violent rampage because everyone thinks I'm a killer. Now I'm gonna be a killer. There is a scene in this movie where he somehow overpowers Michael Myers and steals his mask, therefore putting on the mask and pretending to be Michael killing people. The deaths are violent, downright brutal in this film, but I just don't care. I do not care because it's not Michael. It's this kid that I shouldn't give a shit about is somehow taking over the entirety of the movie. He also becomes Laurie Strode's granddaughter's love interest, even though this guy has 100 red flags. At one point, I swear to God, straight up tells the granddaughter, I killed someone. And she just reacts like, whatever. I mean, and the worst part, the worst part. So it happens for like maybe less than a few seconds when you see it. There's a part in this movie, Corey's murdering somebody, and somebody else is trying to call the police. Michael shows up and helps him finish off the other person. Yeah, Michael Myers helps somebody else. Makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why would Michael help someone? Why would Michael spare somebody? Michael doesn't care. Michael doesn't think. Michael shouldn't give a shit. So why the fuck would he give a shit about Corey? Why the fuck would he try to help him? Why the fuck would he care? It is so fucking ridiculous. So the Corey plot takes up the entirety of the film, and then at the very end, Corey dies. Laurie actually manages to shoot him, and then he kills himself and then Michael shows up to take back his mask, and then that's when we get the final for the film, the actual final between Laurie and Michael. And For what it's worth, it's entertaining, but it's very short. Michael falls, and they do kill him. They absolutely do kill him. I will not spoil that, but I can definitely say that that was an end for Michael Myers. But that's only like 15, 20 minutes of a final that we wanted through an hour, almost 2-hour film of another story that we didn't ask for. The entirety of the film's story focuses on Corey, and we don't care about that. We don't care about this character. We care about Laurie and Michael, and they get completely sidelined. And this is it. This is the so-called end. Jamie Lee Curtis is not coming back to play Laurie. John Carpenter may not be around by the time another movie comes out. This is supposed to be a definitive end for Halloween. Halloween Ends is a massive disappointment, and I was this freaking close to paying to see it in theaters. Thank God Peacock was streaming it, because I would have been absolutely furious if this is what I watched in theaters. So take it for what it's worth. See it if you want. I will never watch this movie again. I would rather watch Halloween Kills 20 times than ever watch Halloween Ends one more time. Halloween started out pretty grand, but sure as hell ended off on a freaking whimper. Fuck this movie.